Kenner Star Wars defined an entire generation of toys. Many collectors today still consider it the gold standard. Today, inside the Retro Lair, we're going to get an inside look at one of the coolest Kenner Star Wars collections I've ever seen in my entire life. Without further ado, let's jump into the video.
So, this is my vintage Kenner collection. Do have a complete line of the 3.75 inch figures and many of the other spin-offs toy lines that Kenner put out as well. Just missing a few play sets and one or two vehicles, but kind of running out of room for them anyway.
This is an awesome setup.
So,
I feel like I had that bed sheet too.
that was a blanket that a friend of mine, Micah, gave me. He said it was from his childhood and it was in bad enough shape it could no longer be used as a blanket. But cleaned it up and got some use out of it.
It's pretty sweet.
C-3PO is my favorite character, so when we were kind of spacing out what to be at the center of it, that is why that's there. C-3PO and R2. And the rest was the piece that got all the main characters listed in there too, and some of the cooler vehicles. And because the C-3PO is my favorite, I'll go ahead and start with the shrine here. The poster at the top is a 1977 Burger Chef promotional thing.
R2-D2, hurry up.
Hello, welcome to Burger Chef.
We'd like a Star Wars poster, please.
I knew it. Well, all you do is buy a large serving of Coca-Cola for 49 cents, and the poster's yours.
R2, look, it's us.
That was there when the movie first launched all those years ago. It was People magazine when that was a month after original release and still in theaters when that came out. And I got to meet Anthony Daniels himself a few years ago, so as you can see there. The 12-inch line of figures has always been fascinating to me. Just that they're bigger and more posable than some of the smaller ones from the generation. That's probably the main appeal for me. That's the original box from the R2 12-inch. Well, this one does have the Death Star plans in the back of him.
This is the original box right here?
Yeah, it is. And the Power of the Force figure here is signed by Kenny Baker, who was inside the R2 costume once upon a time.
Is that something that you got signed by him in person, or?
That one was a gift, actually, but it was authenticated and...
It's a sweet gift.
Yeah. Like shelved down is the original 12 figures that came out in 1978. As some collectors may know, that was something that didn't actually come out with the movie. The kids got the certificate to claim their figures later on. None of those were from an early bird special, as they call it. The shelf is a couple of original things from the original Star Wars. The land speeder on the right is the original release from 1978. An interesting feature on the dewback. That dewback that's out there is not complete, but there is one still sealed in that box.
Oh, nice. So you've got two of them.
Yeah, and that collector series circle in the top right corner. This is an original release, but it wasn't the original release in 1978. I think that came out a year or two later in 79 or 80. So it's the second edition of that, but it is from the originals.
And you got it for $9.99, right?
That's not a childhood survived. Turret Probot set. That is actually the empty box. We'll show you the set here in just a moment. It's out on the display over here. I do try and work in the autographs where I can. So that is a Topps card from Tim Rose. Hopefully I'll meet him in person someday, but we're at Black Bar. And then we have the Ewok corner. That is the Ewok village with some of the original Ewok figures there. Most of those are complete as well. AT-ST and Darth Vader's Star Destroyer playset. Back behind the AT-ST is AT-ST Driver. mint on card. That's a 1985 release for that Star Wars Special Collector's Coin Edition. Just picked that up 6 or 8 months ago.
Nice. You got a lot more carded stuff right here too.
Yeah, do have a little bit of an obsession with the Ewoks, with it being my favorite, of course, and trying to pick up all those figures still on card there. And the what you're focusing on there, that actually is that Screen Leaves animation cell from the 1985 Ewoks cartoon. I'm not sure if the background is original or copy, but the artwork is original. That's a little bit more there.
Another one?
From that. Those are 2 cells, one with each of the Ewoks, and the background underneath that is a hand pencil drawing from the 1985 Droids cartoon. We go down one shelf here, that's kind of the Yoda Dagobah display. My awesome Secret Santa helped me out with that Return of the Jedi sealed VHS there.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with sealed VHS.
Yeah. And this Dagobah playset, this is not childhood original, but definitely one that I had one like it and played with once upon a time. For many, many hours. And I've had this one for 15, 20 years at least, probably. The Yoda you're showing there with the orange snake is actually a childhood survivor, one of just a few that I have left. That's why he gets kind of prominent position there. And he is still complete, even though he's a childhood survivor. Everything was from my childhood on that one particular figure.
That's cool.
There's a brown snake Yoda inside, just to have him on display as well. That was a variant that actually is a little bit more expensive than the orange snake, a little bit harder to find. The foam that you see in the swamp area there is original foam to the 1980 release, which is extremely rare. Even if playsets are in good condition, most of them are without foam or have replacement foam, but that is original 47-year-old foam, 46-year-old foam at this point. An interesting fact about the Dagobah playset is that the designer of it, whose name I can't recall right now, but was famous for putting Easter eggs in his toy designs. And at the front there, just under the foam, if you zoom in, there is a wizard built into the base in the mold. And if you look close enough, it has his daughter's name, Emily, on the back of the wizard. So, after Dagobah, we've got some of the Episode 1 and Episode 2 figures here. As a child, obviously, I was a big Star Wars fan. One of my earliest memories is actually going to see Return of the Jedi in theaters in 1983 when I was 6 years old. And like many collectors, when there weren't movies for so long, it slowed down a little bit on the attention to the collection and the love for Star Wars. But Episode 1 is still a line from other movies. Well, the Force Awakened. So, kind of in the bottom corner here are the mini rigs that Kenner kind of came up with these and designed these just to have more merchandise to sell, basically. None of these were ever screen viewed, and they were never actually part of the movies. Although a few of them look pretty close. You can see the inspiration from things that were in the movies. The AST5, that box in the corner there, that's the French release of that, so that came down from Canada most likely. But that's why it's in a different language there.
That's cool.
In our main centerpiece here, we have Jabba's dungeon and all the accompanying pieces there. This is the version, and that box in the back is the version of the Jabba the Hutt dungeon playset that comes with those 3 figures. There was another version. I think the background on it, instead of being green, was kind of yellow. Might be wrong on that. But it came with kind of some more common figures. Those 3 that are in that one are 3 of what they call the last 17 figures that were released in 1985 and are the most collectible figures to hardcore Kenner collectors, and a group that many collectors don't have all 17. But so that set complete, is very difficult. I do have those 3 figures, but they did not come inside that box. I've obtained them separately. So, but there's the Jabba the playset there, with some carded figures and some loose figures to make out the scene. When drop away approaching Jabba, she was there to try and cash in the bounty on Chewbacca, and some of the figures that were around, including the band there, with some carded figures to fill out the display of characters that were in the scene as well. Lando, sealed in the gift card disguises. I've always thought that was a very fun figure, a very well designed and very detailed figure. Just below that shelf, just as in the movie, there's a Rancor pit underneath Jabba that he banishes people to. The Rancor is down here. This is the original 1983 Rancor that we have here at the box. Over here is what collectors refer to as a tri-logo box. That is a European release. That's why it's in 3 different languages. Therefore, the tri-logo term. That one is still sealed in the box, actually. The box has cut some shelf wear, and it is 40 plus years old, so it's not perfect condition, but there is a packaged Rancor still inside that box. And I got a little bit of diorama and patronage to the Emperor Palpatine. An interesting character, but a very, very engaging man to meet too as well.
So you've met him in person?
Yeah, so you can see. Picked that up at Planet Comic-Con a few years ago. He was there. There was an artist who was selling that print, and it just was too good of a combination to pass up. I picked it up, took it over there, got to talk to him for a minute, and he was awesome. At the panel that I'd seen the day before that, he kind of gave a speech about what his favorite scene was and his favorite line. And his favorite line was the "Do It" in episode 2, when Anakin was sitting there with the 2 lightsabers crossed and decapitated Count Dooku. And the reason that was his favorite line is because he did it seriously and theatrically so many times, and George Lucas kept telling him, that's not it, try something else. He finally did kind of a smart aleck take and tried to just go, "Do it!" And George was like, "Done, that's the one." So after he told that story, that's why I asked him to describe it that way. Up on top of these shelves, we have the Empire Strikes Back Hoth kind of diorama display here with a lot of the pieces from that era. Of course, we do have the 12 inches that I like to keep sneaking in places. The 12-inch original Boba Fett, mostly complete. He is missing the Wookiee braids, but I think that's all. IG-88 is the hardest 12-inch to find. Reason being, he came out in 1980, where most of the 12 inches came out in 78. Boba came out in 79. So IG-88 was the last release, and he is a bare bones figure that has some guns and other accessories he's supposed to have, but they are very, very expensive and very, very hard to find.
What does one of those typically run?
Complete, you could be looking at $1,000. That one,
wow.
I paid $80 for.
$80 sounds way better.
And that was at a convention many years ago as well.
So you're not finding that deal again?
No. So there's my at. Actually, strike that. There is my AT. That is an argument within Star Wars nerds and collectors of what to call it, AT or at. And the argument is, well, you can't call the ATST the ATST, so it has to be AT. So,
start a debate in the comments. What is it?
And to kind of replicate the scene, you can see Luke hanging down when he shot up, and he just pulls himself up and slices in with his lightsaber there. I can squeeze in for a second. One other thing to show you on this. Might watch this part here, but
Oh, that's cool.
Still working 45 years later, 46 years later.
That is awesome.
The Wampa's there.
Toys were so much cooler back in the day.
Couple versions of the Tauntaun that came out. This is a later version with the open belly, which we know is because of the scene where Han sliced it open to keep Luke in there. There's a big debate amongst the movie makers and some of the fan base that wouldn't really work, so they actually had to determine what the internal temp of the Tauntaun is. You know what they decided? That it's lukewarm. There we have Darth Vader's Star Destroyer, or Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. The Death Star playset. There's a couple of things about this I'd like to point out. It is virtually complete. There is one piece missing, which is a rope that should hang right here. And even though they call it a rope, it is plastic. At one time I did have it. Not that, probably 5 years ago I had it, but since then, don't know where it went.
Behind the shelf somewhere, maybe.
That is possible. The trash compactor scene, the monster in it, the monster is down in there. And kind of like Dagobah, that came with foam to fill up the trash compactor and serve as the trash. Like Dagobah, that doesn't exist for most people. But this is the original foam trash. That's why I keep it in the plastic case so that it doesn't degrade.
That's cool.
The Lando up here that has his gun on the front, there's two Landos there. The one with the teeth showing is the smiley Lando in the back, but the one up front is one of my other childhood survivors.
That's cool.
So there's just 3 figures that are childhood survivors. But
just 3? So that's one of them?
Yeah. I believe I added the gun later on that one. He did not still have it. Up here on this shelf, there's a couple of things to talk about. I mean, the original figures mainly from Return of the Jedi on this shelf. The Jedi Luke that's there front and center was the first figure I paid for and bought as a collector, and it wasn't a lot, but it was the first one I bought to collect instead of just having from childhood many years ago. When you got that in package, it had either a blue or a green lightsaber and the gun. The gun's sitting at his feet there. And everything's original. There's no reproduction anywhere in this room. The Luke was supposed to come with either the blue or the green. Don't really know why. Maybe just different factories. But as you can see, I just had him dual wield them just to have both there.
That's cool. Is that the highly collectible Boba that everyone wants? Because wasn't there like a safety feature or something supposedly that...
That is the Boba Fett that we all got. He is in pretty good shape there. What you're referring to is called the rocket firing Boba Fett. The rocket
that one
on his back was supposed to have a spring in it that came out because of a child choking on a Battlestar Galactica toy that had a similar mechanism in it. Kenner pulled the plug on that, and if anyone tells you they ever had that they bought in the stores again, well, they didn't. It never existed, except for prototypes. There's however many of those there are, don't know. It kind of moves us over here to the last 17. There's actually 18 figures in that display because the blue snaggletooth over on the far left is not part of that line, but he kind of fit in well. That was another piece that was considered a Grail at one time. He was only released in one playset that came out in Sears only. It was a Sears exclusive playset. The Cantina action set, I think is what it was called, which I do have the Creature Cantina set here. It is different, kind of similar in name, but a different playset. I do not have the one that the blue snaggletooth came in, but he is listed here and shown here with the last 17 and documentation from promotional things back then. If you notice the name of the movie, a lot of people know that Return of the Jedi originally was named Revenge of the Jedi, but George Lucas decided it's not really in the Jedi mindset to take revenge, so the name was changed. Obviously, some things were still produced already.
It's cool.
So, this is one of the real highlights as a group in the room. I mentioned the blue snaggletooth was from the Sears set. Yak Face was only released in Sweden and never available in the US. The Luke Stormtrooper there was a hard one to track down. The pop-up R2, they call it that because that lightsaber pops up out of him. Just like in the scene in Return of the Jedi when they make Luke walk the plank. And the collector coins are there for most of them. Well, I do have all 17 figures. There's only 15 coins. There are 2 that are extremely hard to find. And pretty cost prohibitive too. The Yak Face coin and the Anakin Skywalker coin. Even though Anakin as a figure is probably the most common of this group.
He's the most common, but his coins
the hardest to find.
Why is that?
Most of that, his figure was a mail away, and they did have some on card that came with the coin, but most of the people that have it got the mail away figure just in a plain baggy and box. Or the biker scout rather has always kind of been an obsession. I just thought it was a cool figure and everything. So I do have the carded speeder bike, or the packaged speeder bike in the back there, as well as the gun still in the box there. So this is another Tauntaun. This was the original release that does not have the open belly. The reason I highlight this, it is complete with the reins and saddle. But a unique feature on this that is hard to find. Typically these reins are snapped at the back and they're kind of in 2 pieces, but this is still intact.
It's nice.
Another variant that people are paying more attention to now that kind of went unnoticed for many years. Which of these 2 figures would you think is more valuable?
Man, it's really kind of hard to tell the difference. One of them, let's see, me just guessing.
One that's in nicer condition.
You would think the one that's in nicer condition, but I'm assuming it's probably this one.
Yeah, this is the original 1978 R5D4 figure. Came out in this condition. It's probably worth $20-25. And you can see the sticker on it is the thing. This little bar right up here is white, which means it's the general run. There's a variation where that little rectangle is filled in, and that's what this other one is. This is referred to as by collectors as the red bar R5. I found this in the flea market.
I see the difference now. Yeah.
Yeah, and the guy was there. Figure's not in great shape. I asked him, "What do you have on that R5?" And he said, $5. It's in rough shape. Sold. Even in this condition, this figure is rare enough that this might be a $100 figure, even in its current condition. This is the Grail cabinet. You can see I've kind of got it surrounded with paperwork. I just thought it looked cool displayed that way instead of just being stuffed inside the boxes. That is not my childhood Falcon, but that is one of the oldest pieces I picked up. I probably had that 25 years, maybe more.
It's cool.
The 18 figures, they're one of the Easter eggs. I said there's a couple of things in here that are not Star Wars. Those are childhood survivors.
That's actually awesome. They look really, really clean.
Except for the Hannibal. My dog got a hold of the Hannibal a few years ago. But the other 3 are childhood survivors. And I do love signatures, so that is a George Papard autograph, even though it's a canceled check. It's kind of cheating, but it's the only one I can get my hands on.
It's cool.
Original box for the X-Wing there. And this, like I said, this is my Grail case. When I set out, I wanted 1 carded figure for Luke, 1 for Leia, 1 for Han, C-3PO, the main characters, and 1 that is carded from the original 12. Obviously, Leia Bosch is not from the original 12, but that is a figure that Bought with some things that I bought at auction to resell, but that one was just too good to sell, and everything. I had to hang on to it, and it makes a nice addition to here. You see, I like some of the strange things in here too. That's an old shampoo bottle.
George, the fact that you made me into a little doll that my first husband could stick pins into, a shampoo bottle where people could twist my head off and pour liquid out of my neck, lather up with Leia, and you'll feel like a princess yourself.
The original Luke farm boy there in the middle is an original on the card, is the original 12 back that I wanted in my collection. I didn't care which of the 12, but I happened to get lucky and find a deal with that for that original 12 Luke from 1978 in pristine condition. The X-Wing Luke has always kind of been a fascinating design also, and just kind of a nostalgic memory of the Empire Strikes Back and everything that happened in the battles there. And now we're at the Land of the Jawas. That's the name of this boy set. Actually, the Land of the Jawas. That set was reused 3 or 4 different times by Kenner for different things, just with different backgrounds. There's one for Hoth that I have, but it's in pretty rough shape, so it's not out on display. It's white, the same base in white with a different background cardboard piece on the back.
Cardboard's in really good shape.
Yeah, we've been able to be lucky in finding some of the things that are in pretty good shape. 12-inch Jawa there, and you're focusing in on the crown jewel of the collection. The vinyl Cape Jawa, AFA graded and sealed with documentation in the corner. That's what that frame document is. The Yoda shelf here, there's some interesting stories there. Picked those 2 carded Yodas up. Yoda and C-3PO were my 2 favorite characters, so I've always tried to focus on those. And I've been able to secure both variants of Yoda still on the original packaging there, with the brown snake and the green snake.
It's awesome. You got these carded and loose.
The picture in the background is a pretty funny story, actually. I was on a cruise with my family, and we got off the boat. If you've ever been on a cruise, when you get off the boat, there's usually local vendors there trying to sell their local crafts and everything. So we step off the boat, and immediately I hear the Star Wars theme. But and my family and my girlfriend at the time all kind of turned to me and go, "No." And I was like, "Yes, no." So I kind of suppressed the temptation for a while as we were walking around the town in St. Martin. We did some shopping, and then we turned the corner, and it was louder and louder and louder. I got to. There was a museum there from Nick Malloy, I believe was the man's name, and he was the one who built Yoda, like the actual physical puppet Yoda. He was the crafter of it, and that's a picture of him back here working on it, his signature. And he claims that those 2 pieces of script are original from his script from Empire Strikes Back. While that's obviously pages from the script, I can't verify that they aren't photocopies, but he says they are the originals. And you can see that in the corner, the bottom left corner of the page with text, there are some kind of codes and numbers, and that's supposed to, and date, that's supposed to be the verification that it was, at least the original was issued to someone on set. Like I said, I have no way of verifying that those aren't photocopies of the original. So
Still cool.
the last of the Grails, as I mentioned, the die-cast vehicles are my one of my favorite things. If I ever downsize my collection because of moving or just decide to move on, that is one group that I will keep. All that is the full collection, all 11, and the B-wing below isn't necessarily a Grail, but it just fit that spot. But the 11 here are the ones that I do particularly enjoy. The TIE bomber in the middle there with the double kind of TIE look there on the red circle on it is the elusive, hard to find one that I was in search of for years. And even though I was trying to locate some and find people to sell it, never even saw one in person until I was able to acquire that. And just acquired that last week, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Is that the one?
That is the one.
That is the one.
When Joe brought it to me, he had it bubble wrapped in 3 or 4 layers of bubble wrap and in a box. And as I was opening it up and unwrapping the bubble wrap, actually had a little bit of a tear come to my eye because it had been such a chase for so long, and it finally happened.
Out of everything in here, if the house is burning down, what's the one thing you're grabbing and running out with?
That
was a tough question.
I don't know. Maybe the childhood Yoda, maybe the TIE bomber.
Maybe both.
Yeah.
Depends on how bad the fire is, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, probably one of those 2 things.
Okay.
Maybe the VCJ. Vinyl Cape Jawa. Sorry, hardcore collector swept out for a second.
Let us know in the comments if this was your collection, what's the one thing you're going to grab? If the house is on fire, what's the one thing you're going to grab and run out with?
Warwick Davis, yeah, just met him last summer. He was very nice. The very first convention I went to, saw Jake Lloyd, asked him to sign this. His pen didn't work. He changed pens. It still didn't work. The signature's up here. And he probably tried to sign it 5 times, and it looks like it. A black and white photo at the top is a little bit of a trivia question I ask people. That's a very famous actor for a different role. You see who that is.
He looks very familiar.
Did have a couple of lines in Empire Strikes Back, but he is America's favorite postman, John Ratzenberger.
This one's cool.
She was very nice. Unfortunately, not many people were visiting her line, so I got to talk to her for 10 or 15 minutes probably. Femi Taylor. That is Greedo, Paul Blake, the person in the Greedo costume, not Harrison Ford. Tom King, the modern voice of Yoda in the Clone Wars, and the narrator there. The original Chewbacca, Peter Mayhew. The newer Chewbacca, Junius Suotamo, is also a very amazing man to talk to. There's the Ray Park. Everybody's favorite there. A little bit embarrassed that that's the photo that got signed, but
nah.
As I tell people, the one I wanted was the full white gown and the 2 hair buns on either side. Sold out before I got there. Close up of just her face with that hairdo. Sold out before I got there. That was the 3rd or 4th choice. Anthony Daniels was awesome. He's, as I mentioned a couple of times, he and C-3PO are my favorite. One of the reasons he's my favorite is because on his personal website, AnthonyDaniels.com, he will list eBay listings for autographed items that are fakes and call people out by name. As an autograph collector, I've always thought that was awesome.
That is awesome.
And when I mentioned that to him, you'll never find one. I said, I always appreciate that you call out the fakes. And he goes, people who do that, you'll never find more wretched scum and villainy. It is that Mandalorian picture there is signed by Barry Lowen, who's one of the stunt doubles who's often inside the suit. There are 3 stunt doubles inside his suit, actually, that are in it the majority of the time. I'm going to a convention in a few weeks where I'm actually going to be able to meet the other 2.
That's cool. You taking that with you?
Thinking about it, but I think I might get individual photos of each of them. I think I'd rather do that.
That's cool.
Yeah. That is the collection.
Dude, thank you so much for letting us come and check it out. It was freaking awesome. And I learned a lot. Because Star Wars is not my niche.
Always glad to help. answer any questions, whatever. So, may the force be with you. Collect the classics and relive the memories.
Peace out, guys.